Okay, so you've been really digging into this whole equality in relationships
Yeah.
thing, haven't you? Like,
Yeah.
you've got articles everywhere, like
Yeah.
research bookmarked,
It's pretty fascinating stuff.
even some personal notes
Yeah.
sprinkled in there.
Definitely pondering some relationship stuff lately.
Yeah, so we are diving deep today
Okay.
to see if this whole equality thing, is it the holy grail of relationships
So
or just a fairy tale,
it's the question, isn't it? I mean,
right?
we hear 50-50 all the time,
Right.
but is that even possible?
Yeah.
When you're dealing with two unique people, let alone.
Yeah, it's not like you can just, like,
Yeah.
draw a line down the middle and be like,
Right.
you take half the arguments, I'll take this half. Like,
Yeah.
how?
Yeah.
So how do we even unpack this? Where do we even start with equality?
I think you actually you highlighted something really interesting in your notes, which is this idea that defining equality is part of the problem. Is it splitting chores?
Yeah.
Is it making sure your bank accounts are completely even?
Right.
It gets
Yeah.
messy quickly.
Because, I mean, like that sociologist that I flagged was
Yes.
saying, every couple is bringing different values and
Sure.
expectations to the table.
Totally.
So what feels equal or balanced to one couple
Yes.
might feel totally off to another.
Precisely. And that's where this gets
Yeah.
really fascinating because,
Yeah.
a couple could be perfectly content with one person managing finances while the other takes the lead on, social planning or whatever.
Right.
But even within that,
Yeah.
there's still that question of, does each person feel empowered in that?
Yeah.
Or is there a power dynamic?
Right. So even if there's no one definition of equality,
Right.
it sounds like that mutual respect piece
Yeah.
is non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's just the house of cards, right?
Yeah. And this is where the debate heats up
Okay.
because you've got folks in your stack of research who are all about team equality.
Okay.
And they argue that a truly equal relationship
Okay.
is achievable.
Okay.
It's
Bring it back.
possible.
Okay.
It can happen.
All right.
And they make a really good point about, shared responsibility.
Yes.
And not just the practical stuff, like who does the dishes or
Yeah.
mows the lawn,
Right.
but like who is taking on
Yes.
the emotional labor?
Yeah.
Like who is starting the tough conversations?
Oh, I like that.
Who remembers the birthdays?
Uh,
It's about recognizing that both partners are contributing, even if it doesn't look
Yeah.
the same on the surface.
Exactly.
And this idea that leads to a sense of mutual empowerment where each person feels supported
Okay.
to pursue their own things.
So that's
Yeah.
team equality. That's their argument.
That's team equality.
Okay.
They're like, this is good, we can do this.
Yeah, it's a nice.
Right, but then you've got team
Uh,
imbalance chiming in,
Okay.
and they're like, hold on, hold your horses, everybody.
Yeah.
We are not living in a vacuum here.
Right. Yeah.
And they point out the very real
Mhm.
influence of societal norms,
Yes.
like it or not.
Totally.
These ingrained gender roles,
Right. Yeah.
they can be tough to shake off completely.
Right. Like even if you try to rewrite the script,
Yes.
those old expectations can just kind of creep in.
They can sneak in there
Yeah,
before you know it.
without you even realizing it.
Exactly. And team imbalance also reminds us about those inherent personality differences
Right.
that we were talking about before.
Yes.
Some people are naturally more assertive.
Right.
Some are happy to go with the flow.
Sure.
That doesn't mean one way is better than the other,
Right.
but it can lead to an imbalance
Yeah.
if you're not careful.
If you don't acknowledge it.
Right.
And then
Maybe.
the elephant in the room,
Yes. This is a big one,
you flag this like multiple times in your notes.
of course.
And for good reason, because money, it's
It's unavoidable.
unavoidable.
Money often translates to power, both in the world,
Yes.
but in our relationships.
Yes.
So if there's a significant income disparity,
Right.
that can create a power dynamic. That's
Sure.
tricky.
Yeah. Really tricky.
Even with the best intentions.
Okay. So we've got team equality over here
Okay.
with their vision of shared responsibility and empowerment.
Yes.
We've got team imbalance,
Yep.
bringing us back down to earth, talking about societal norms and
Yeah.
individual quirks and personalities,
Absolutely.
and the power of money.
Right.
But where does all this theory actually land in the real world?
Right.
Do any couples actually manage to make this whole equality thing work?
Well, you've included some really interesting stories about real couples in your research here.
I did?
And it's not always a happy ending,
Okay.
but it's not all doom and gloom either.
Okay.
Want to hear how these dynamics are actually playing out?
Yes, tell me these aren't all cautionary tales.
So one couple you highlighted, they talked about how they started off
Okay.
like really strong. They were
Mhm.
all about equality, splitting everything down the middle,
Okay.
making all their decisions together.
Okay.
But then, life happened.
Right.
One of them got a demanding job.
Sure.
They ended up moving closer to one person's family.
Right.
Just all those
Yeah,
curveballs.
the curveballs.
And gradually, without even realizing it,
Yeah.
one partner ended up in kind of a more dominant role,
Okay.
especially when it came to making decisions.
So even with like the best of intentions, you can just kind of get knocked off balance by life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this couple's story, I think, really highlights why those regular check-ins
Yes.
are so important. Just
Yeah.
making sure both people still feel good
Yeah.
about the dynamic, especially as things change.
Totally. Yeah.
Because you even underline something here
Yeah.
about how resentment
Oh,
can
yeah.
build so silently
Oh, it's so true.
if you're not having those conversations.
It's so true.
So,
Okay, so regular relationship inventory.
yes.
Noted.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of those unspoken dynamics,
Yeah.
the second couple that we've got in the mix here,
Yes.
they seem to be grappling with that in a more upfront way.
This couple fascinates me because they were very conscious
Yeah.
of wanting to be equal,
Okay.
but they are also very aware that there were still times when one person's voice
Yeah.
seemed to kind of have more weight.
Right.
And what I love about this couple is just how honest
Yeah.
they are, because
Totally
we all
kind of.
bring our own stuff
Right. Okay.
to these relationships,
Yes.
right? Like our own
Yes.
insecurities and past experiences.
Totally.
And those things can really tip the scales, sometimes without us even realizing it.
Yeah, and that's where I think that self-awareness piece that you're
Yes.
talking about
Yeah, yeah.
becomes so crucial, like catching yourself in those moments
Mhm.
where you're like, oh, am I shutting down right now? Or why do I feel so unheard?
Right. Or is this even
Yeah.
about this?
Yeah,
Or am I bringing something else to the table?
exactly.
Right.
Which I love that because you even had a note here about
Yeah.
how just recognizing that you're feeling powerless in a
Yeah.
situation is such a big step
It's huge.
to fixing it.
It's like that therapist was saying,
Yeah.
sometimes just recognizing it allows you to actually talk about it.
Right. And that's where I think,
Yes.
that magic word everyone's always thrown around, communication.
Right.
But how do you actually make that work?
Yeah.
Because let's be real, some of us would rather
It's not always easy.
swallow our pride than have a potentially awkward conversation.
Right. So true.
Right.
So how do you have those conversations
Yeah.
in a way that's constructive
Okay.
and not catastrophic?
Yes, exactly. So open and honest communication is key
Yes.
when it comes to this whole equality thing. But easier said than done in a lot of cases.
It really is.
All right.
It's a process, not a destination.
Right.
It's like you wouldn't water a garden once
Right.
and expect it to thrive.
Right.
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 It needs that constant
Yes.
nurturing.
Okay, so like preventative care for your relationship.
Exactly.
So instead of letting it build up to this big,
Like,
scary confrontation,
yes,
it's about those little check-ins,
exactly.
frequent check-ins.
Those little course corrections along the way.
Like, what would that sound like?
Like even just saying like, hey, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with the chores lately.
Okay.
Can we just revisit how we're dividing things up? Or you know how you've been handling all the dinner plans.
Right.
Are you still happy with that? Would you like to switch it up?
Okay.
It's about expressing your needs
Yeah.
without blaming or accusing.
Yeah.
You even had a note here about how couples who express gratitude for each other
Oh, interesting.
regularly tend to navigate these conversations more smoothly
Oh, that makes sense.
because you're starting from a place of
Yeah.
appreciation
Yes.
rather than accusation.
I like that a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So what about those deeper,
Yeah.
sometimes like more subconscious
Yes.
power imbalances?
Those are tough.
Those are trickier, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes you don't even know.
Right. How do you
You don't even realize.
talk about it if you don't even know?
Right, exactly.
Right. So that's where that self-awareness is huge.
Okay.
Just noticing in yourself, like,
Yeah.
when do I feel my defenses getting up?
Okay.
When do I feel unheard or dismissed?
Yes.
What's making me feel that way?
Right.
Is it actually about this situation, or am I bringing other stuff to the table?
Yeah, past relationships, insecurities, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That you haven't dealt with yet.
Okay, so introspection is
Yeah.
key.
Yeah.
Got it, check. But even then,
Right.
what if those conversations still feel like they're just going in circles?
You're hitting on something really important.
Yeah,
Sometimes we need a little help,
sure.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's where a neutral third party
Okay.
can be so helpful,
Yeah.
like a therapist or a counselor,
Right.
because they can provide that safe and structured space
Yeah.
to untangle those knots,
Right.
help you communicate better.
So true. Sometimes you need someone to just shine a light on your blind spots.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
all this deep diving,
Right.
where do we land
Right. What's the verdict?
on this whole equality debate? Is it even a debate, or is it just like,
Right. Is it even the right word?
is there
I don't know that there's a debate because
Yeah.
I think it's less about picking a side
Okay.
and more about understanding the dynamic
Right.
in your relationship.
Because it's not one size fits all.
It's so not one size fits all.
It's about finding that sweet spot where
Yeah.
everyone feels respected, empowered, heard, yes.
Yeah.
All the good stuff.
Exactly. And I think, that's what makes this whole
Right.
thing so interesting.
Yeah, and you have given us
Yeah.
so much to think about today.
Well, this has been great.
And hopefully given our listeners even more.
And for you listening, it's about
Right.
starting those conversations,
Yeah.
checking in with each other,
Yes.
being willing to adapt as life throws those curveballs.
It's a journey, not a destination, right?
Exactly.
Big thanks to you.
This has been fun.
And to you, dear listener, for joining us on this deep dive.
Absolutely.
Until next time.